Honestly, I'm just impressed that I own half the books I read this month. Hi everyone, it's Mackenzie here, and today I'm going to be giving you my August wrap-up. So in July, I read 50 books, and after that, I was sort of a little burned out, I guess you could say. I wanted to film a wrap-up because I read some really great books that month, but when you read 50 books, I did not know how to do a wrap-up. I filmed one, and it wasn't even good. Like, the quality was terrible, and I had to edit out a ton of stuff, and it still ended up being an hour and a half long, and I couldn't upload that from my phone because I film and edit and upload everything on my phone, and I couldn't do that with an hour and a half long video. So I ended up not doing a wrap-up for July. So going into August, I said, okay, Mackenzie, slow down. You do not need to read 50 books. You don't even have to read like 20 books. Just go at your own pace. Don't get so stressed out about it. So I did. I went at my own pace. I took some time. I wouldn't say I fell into a reading slump, but I was definitely less motivated to read than I was before. But all in all, it was still successful because I read 12 books in the month of August. So the first 5 books I read this month were all sort of fitting the same theme. I actually filmed a vlog where I read these 5 books, but since I filmed it in the first week of August and I still haven't edited it, I don't know if I'm ever going to upload it. Just because, I mean, it's been a whole month by this point, so I'm not sure if anyone really wants to see that. But I did make it sort of a challenge for myself to read 5 books that I bought purely for the cover. And I mean literally, like, didn't know anything about them going in, might not have even recognized the author. I literally just like walked into the bookstore, saw the beautiful cover, read the synopsis just to make sure I didn't hate it, and then bought it. Like, didn't check reviews, didn't see if I could get it at a library, literally just bought it. And there were 5 of those. Well, there are probably like 7 of those on my shelf, but I've already read some of them. But there were 5 of those that fit the bill pretty nicely, and that's these 5, which I will go over right now. So the first book that I officially read in the month of August was A Light Too Bright by Samuel Miller. This follows, I have to give synopses for all of these, don't I? In this world, in the fictional universe that this takes place in, there is a man named Arthur Lewis Pullman who was a famous author. There's a book he wrote, I think it's called A World Away. I'm pretty sure it's called A World Away by Arthur Lewis Pullman. And it's heralded as like this giant literary masterpiece up there with like On the Road by Jack Kerouac, and like it's designated reading in public schools. Like, it's a big deal. But he started to develop Alzheimer's in the later stages of his life. And one day he just up and leaves. He's living with his son and grandson at the time, Arthur Lewis Pullman II and Arthur Lewis Pullman III. Very unoriginal. But one day he just up and leaves. And 5 days later, they find him dead in Ohio. And I think they live in California. So yeah, California. So that's a pretty far journey to travel. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows what he did for those last 5 days of his life. Nobody knows why he was in Ohio or why he did anything at all. So the book takes place in present day. It follows Arthur Lewis Pullman III, so the author's grandson. He is our protagonist. Things have not been going very great in his life recently. He just graduated high school. He's about to go to college, but some recent stuff has happened, so he has a restraining order, or his girlfriend has issued a restraining order against him. He's not in touch with his best friend, like they're not on speaking terms. His school, his college of choice has pulled their scholarship that they had offered him, and he has a cast on his arm. So like overall, things are just not going well for this kid right now. Because of this, his dad sends him to go spend the summer staying with his aunt and uncle in their house. But as soon as he gets there, literally, like, I'm pretty sure it's the first night, he gets there and he finds a notebook in his room, in the room that he's staying in, which used to be his grandfather's, and he finds a hidden message written by his grandfather, and it has like an address and a name, and so he follows that address and name to another destination, and then there he finds another clue and then another clue, and so he basically spends the majority of the book retracing his grandfather's steps, trying to figure out what he did those last 5 days of his life and why he ended up in Ohio. This took me a while to get into. I really didn't get into it until like page 200. I mean, I was reading it for this challenge, so I was like still trucking through, you know, actually trying to get through it, but it didn't really interest me that much until some developments happen. And I won't give it away, obviously, because it's spoilers, but you learn something else about his grandfather that you didn't know. And I thought it was a very interesting direction that the book started to go into. And then the ending, like the last fourth of the book, I absolutely loved. I ended up giving it 4 stars just because the ending was so well done. It could have been 5 if I had been more interested in the first half of the book, but overall, it was still fantastic. I would recommend it. It was really good. Next, I read Conviction by Denise Mina. Also, sorry, I did my nails. I know that they don't look very good. We're just going to ignore that, okay? This is a mystery thriller that follows a woman named Anna. And the book starts with her waking up, getting the kids ready for school, getting ready for work, you know, normal day. And then her best friend shows up and announces that she has been sleeping with Anna's husband. And now the two of them and the kids are going to all go on a trip while Anna moves out of the house. And so Anna's understandably not very happy about this. And so in order to take her mind off of how her life is falling apart, she starts listening to a podcast. I forget what it's called, not really important, but she starts listening to a podcast. It's one of those true crime podcasts. It's where they talk about like some mysterious event that happened and like theorize about it. And it was about a yacht that sunk and killed a family of 3. And Anna realizes as she's listening that she actually recognizes the name of the man that died, the dad on board the ship that sunk. And she's like, wait, I know that guy. He what? And so basically she just becomes very invested in figuring out what happened. And then her best friend's husband, so like, you know, not only did Anna's husband leave her, but the best friend also left her husband. His name is Finn. They sort of commiserate together for a bit, and so he actually joins her on her journey to figure out what really happened to this guy that died on the yacht and figure out why it actually sank. And they end up uncovering a mystery. Yeah, I gave this 3 stars because I did think that the mystery was very well crafted and very clever, but overall it was not very thrilling, you know? It didn't like really grip me. It kind of did in the beginning, but then the farther they traveled from their hometown, the less I cared. I know that doesn't really make sense. You also find out along the way that Anna is not entirely who she says she is. And I thought that was an interesting choice. I think it worked, like it would have worked really well for the book, except the way that they built up to it, it sounded like Anna had a dark past, like maybe she killed someone, or maybe she used to be, I don't know, in the mafia or something. Like there was some big thing that she did and she was running away from. But it turns out the reason she was running away from her old life is because something happened to her and people were just being jerks about it. Like it wasn't even her fault. And so I felt like that kind of detracted from the allure of the mystery of her secret identity. I don't know. Overall, it was good. I mean, I've definitely read worse thrillers than this, but I have also definitely read better. So 3 stars. Next, I read Get in Trouble by Kelly Link. This is a short story collection of fiction stories with speculative elements. Some of them are very high speculative, like bordering on sci-fi fantasy, because there is one story where they are literally in a spaceship in the future. But there are also stories where there's like really nothing amiss except for like a strange foreboding sense that like what's going on here? I ended up giving this 5 stars because I really, really loved it. I think my favorite thing about it is that all of the speculative elements are written in a way that it makes you question whether it's really happening or not. Like maybe it's just glamorized writing style. I don't know, but I really loved it. I would say I Can See Right Through You was my absolute favorite, closely followed by Secret Identity. Next, I read Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. Ooh, I don't even know how to describe the synopsis. Oh my god. This book takes place in a near future? Just future? I don't know. Sort of dystopian, futuristic world where the, I don't know if it's because of global warming or some other force that never really specifies, but basically water has been slowly swallowing up all of the continents on Earth. And so this book takes place on sort of a giant barge, kind of like an octopus. There's like a central hub and then 8 legs branching out off of that central hub. And each branch, it's sort of like the Hunger Games where like some of them are like richer than others and they do different things. But the actual plot follows the perspective of, I think, 5 different characters. I'm not sure. There are multiple perspectives, and they're all interconnected. The characters like don't really know each other at the beginning of the story, but by the end they do. It's very Dickens-esque, and I really love that about this book because I love when different plots end up weaving together to form a cohesive storyline. Oh, it's so good. Things in this world are kind of thrown into chaos with the arrival of a woman who is called an orcamancer because she is riding on an orca, like a whale, and she's controlling it. She also has a giant polar bear with her that she seems to be working with as well. And so everyone is just very confused, very nervous about what it means, what she wants from their city. Yeah? City. I gave this book 5 stars because it was way better than I ever could have imagined. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and so this was just like perfect for me. Not only was it gripping and thrilling and exciting, not only did I care about each and every character, not only was I totally invested in the plot, but this book had such good commentary on like real issues going on in the world today. This book talked about the erasure of indigenous people and their cultures, the mistreatment of immigrants, poverty and classism. There's an epidemic going around in the book called the breaks, which is basically AIDS, but like worse. I don't know how to explain it, but it, so that sort of reflected the AIDS epidemic and how like nobody cared. And it was also turned into a political tool sometimes to either gain or lose votes. There's other stuff in here. Also, like half of the characters are queer, so we love to see it. I don't know, overall, this was just like way better than I thought it would be. I mean, I thought it would be good because the cover is gorgeous. Like I said, these 5 books I bought because of the covers. But it was so good. I would highly recommend this, especially if you don't care about sci-fi or fantasy. It's not really fantasy, but if you don't read that genre a lot, like me, I think this is a great place to start because it's fantastic. The world building is super easy to understand. It's not even that long. I would recommend it to literally everyone. Next, I read Joe Ghoul's Teeth by Jill Lepore. This is pretty short. I genuinely knew nothing about this going into it. This was a wild time. I actually ended up annotating this book. Not the way that I normally do with like tabs and stuff, but because I read it while I was at work, and so I didn't have all of my sticky notes and colored pens, so I just used like pencil. I gave this 4 stars because Lepore did such a fantastic job manipulating the audience with the structure and narration of this book. I love a good book that manipulates the audience. I mean, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, fantastic. Fleischman is in Trouble, fantastic. even books that try to manipulate the audience but don't really work, like The Wives by Taryn Fisher or Trust Exercise by Susan Choi, I can still kind of appreciate what they're trying to do, even if I disagree with how it was done. And Lepore did that with this. She starts out the book describing Joe Gould and like everything he did and like why it was so important to write this oral history, and how like everyone in the writing community at the time supported him. This guy was a big deal in his time. And the book talks about all of that, and so you're like, wow, I can't believe he never wrote anything. And you start to think like, oh, I bet we're gonna like uncover some secret treasure trove of all of his writing. We're gonna find this book. And then the farther into the book you go, Lepore starts to hint at aspects of Joe Gould's childhood and early life that lead you to believe like, oh, maybe he's not the most like normal guy. And then you get even farther and you learn even more, and you're like, ooh, this guy might be a little mentally unstable. By the end, you're full on going, okay, this guy is off his rocker. There is something wrong with this man. I think I wrote that multiple times in the margins, actually. I would just be like, this man, or I would underline it and be like, I can't believe him. Because like, you just learn a lot. I won't give too much away because I think that's part of the fun. Although I don't know if anyone's going to read this book. It's not that popular. But I think that's part of the fun of reading it, is that you don't know all of the stuff you'll learn before you start it. And then you learn a lot of things and you're like, wow, I never would have guessed that. I learned a lot from this book. Not any information that I like really needed to know, but I did learn it. And I really, really loved Lepore's structure of the book. So that is why I gave it 4 stars instead of 3, which is typical for me for biography books. Next, I read a book called All This Could Be Yours by Jamie Attenberg. This is very much a character study. It is about a family. There's the dad. Oh God, do I remember any of their names? Give me a minute. Okay, I've tried to think about it. I genuinely don't remember anyone's names, and I can't be bothered to go look it up, especially because I don't own the book. I listened to the audiobook from Libby. There's the mom, the dad, and then the 2 children. There's a daughter, again, whose name I don't remember, and the son is named Gary. I know that much. And then Gary's ex-wife is named Twyla, and I only remember that because there's a character named Twyla on Schitt's Creek, and I think that that's like such an unusual name that I thought it was a little weird for me to be aware of 2 fictional characters named Twyla. So the book basically follows those 4 perspectives: the mom, the daughter, Gary, and Twyla. Honestly, it was a little confusing, but the point is, the dad dies. Like, the main man, main big boss, head of the house, dies. He has a heart attack. And then the wife knew that he was involved in a lot of stuff because she was also sort of involved in a lot of stuff. And he did not treat her all that well. He didn't treat his kids all that well. And she just kind of like let it go on, let it be. The daughter, I really wish I remembered her name. She knows that the dad is doing something. She knew all along that the dad was up to something. And so now that he's dead, she is trying to pester her mom into giving away all of his secrets. Like, she wants to know what was going on. And she knows that her mom has to be aware of it, so she just keeps pestering her about it. And then there's Gary, and honestly, Gary's just kind of a mess. He's dealing with his own problems. He's sort of trying to distance himself from his father's death because he already has enough on his plate. Twyla is taking his death much harder than you'd think an ex-daughter-in-law would. And you learn a lot more about that. Honestly, I thought Twyla's perspective was the most interesting. It was also the one I hated the most. Like, I thought that it was very obnoxious because I like could not sympathize with any of the choices she was making. In fact, I thought that they were very annoying, but it was the most interesting. I think because it was the least introspective, whereas all of the other characters were very much reflecting on their past and their relationships with this man. And I don't know. I really liked it in the beginning because I was like, ooh, dysfunctional family dynamics. I'm always here for that. the dad dies and we're gonna learn all of these weird secrets about him. I'm ready for that. And I was really enjoying it for like the first half, and then the last like third of the book kind of just went off the rails for me. I like really got super bored. I could barely pay attention, and I felt like it didn't even wrap up that nicely, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Next, I ended up reading Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is a YA contemporary about a boy named Felix. He is transgender, he is Black, and he is queer. Somebody prints out photos of Felix before he transitioned. So back when he had like long hair and he was going by his dead name and stuff, somebody printed out photos from his Instagram account, old photos of him like that, and then blew them up and like, I keep wanting to say posted, but like that's not the term. Hung them on the walls in their art school. And so like everybody saw them, it was a big deal. And Felix, obviously it's very degrading, and so he is like devastated by this thing that happened, and now he is hell-bent on figuring out who did it and then getting back at them for it. Along the way, there's some romance, there's lots of friendship, there are lots of discussions of gender identity, which was fantastic. I ended up giving this 5 stars, which should surprise no one because almost everyone that reads this book gives it 5 stars. I will say it was a close call for me because the end, Felix ends up with the person that I didn't actually want him to end up with. Not because I thought they weren't right for each other, but because I can't talk about it without giving it away. I might do a full review of this book at some point. Like I might reread it again in the future, a few months from now, and then do a full book review on it. Because I can't really explain my thoughts without giving it away. But Felix ended up with someone when I would have rather he ended up with the other person that was a potential love interest. Not because they weren't right for each other, but just because my personal experience, I literally don't know how to explain it without giving it away. I'll just leave it at that, I guess. But they still fit, you know? The person Felix ended up with was still a good fit for him, so I'm not upset about it. I just think I would have appreciated if it had been the other person. Sorry, I know that this is super vague. Just read the book. Next, I read Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. This is about a young 14-year-old girl named Aduni who lives in Nigeria. She's only 14, and her father marries her off to this man. I already forget his name. Oh my god, I need to like start taking notes for each of these books on like the characters' names and the key points I want to mention and my thoughts, because clearly I don't remember even when it's only been a month. Aduni is married to this man. While she's there, he also has a few other wives, and so she becomes friends with one of his other wives. But after something happens to her, Aduni has to run away and leave, and so she ends up going to work for this woman named Big Madame. I don't remember what her actual name is, but Aduni ends up working as sort of a maid / house servant to this woman and her husband. And basically, the whole story, Aduni just wants education. She wants to learn so that she can understand things. Like, she just wants to be educated and learn English and everything. And so the book basically just follows her in her pursuit of trying to find education while being held back at every single turn because of the society that she lives in. I gave it 4 stars. I think it definitely could have been 5 if not for the fact that it just like took a while to go anywhere, in my opinion. The plot was very well constructed and very well done, but because it was such a struggle for Aduni to like do anything, there were like no highs whatsoever. It was like the entire book was just her struggling until the end, and so it made me less inclined to pick up the book and keep reading. It actually took me like a week and a half to get through this entire book, when it's not even the longest book I read this month. It just took me a really long time, and so for that, I had to dock it 1 star, just because It didn't like hold my attention as much as I would have liked it to. But I don't want to go into any other details on my thoughts on the book because I thought it was fantastic. It was so well done, so well written. But I would encourage you to go watch a review or read a review from an Own Voices reviewer because, you know, I'm white. Anything I say on the book is kind of a moot point. So I would highly recommend watching an Own Voices reviewer talk about this book instead because there are so many great points that this book makes and so many important things to discuss about the book, but I am not the right person to be doing that. So please go check out some other reviews. Next, I read Disfigured by Amanda LeDuc. This was nonfiction. It talks about, basically the whole book is saying how fairy tales constantly portray ableist descriptions or depictions of people with disabilities or disabled people. And it was genuinely so fascinating. I gave it 5 stars because I learned so much and it made me question the things that I've grown up watching and reading and thinking about. It talks about, like, a few examples are like how in The Lion King, Scar is the villain, and not only does he have a facial deformity, but it's so prominent that he is literally only referred to by the term Scar. He's referred to because of his facial deformity. The Little Mermaid and how she just wants legs to be like everybody else. I'm not doing it justice right now. There were so many different examples and such fantastic commentary and explanation on all of it that it really just like, it gave me a whole new perspective on how lots of modern media is perpetuating ableist stereotypes and just being ableist in general. And it made me think about how maybe have I done or said anything that could be perceived as ableist without really realizing the ramifications of it. It talked about simple phrases like saying, I'm going into this blind, or saying someone is tone deaf. You know, like, being blind and deaf are very real physical issues that you shouldn't use in just like idioms like that. And so it made me think on a broader spectrum, on a broader scale, there we go. It made me think about my own behavior as well as the behavior I see in the world around me. And I would highly recommend everybody read this book because it really just opens your eyes, and it's done in such a thoughtful way. I was intrigued the whole time. Like, I was never bored. I always learned something from like each and every chapter. I would recommend everyone read it. Next, I read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This book follows a girl, oh my god, I just finished it like 2 days ago. Why do I not remember her name? Abby. Follows our protagonist, Abby. She's a young girl. She's in high school. Her best friend, Gretchen, gets possessed by a demon. And that's literally like the entire premise of the story. It's not really a spoiler because that's literally what happens. It's called My Best Friend's Exorcism. I think we all know that she gets possessed and they have an exorcism. The book, I gave it 3 stars because it didn't like really freak me out or even like do anything special for me. It just felt like a typical exorcism story, you know. There were definitely like creepy things that happened, but it didn't really freak me out, and the horror vibes were there, but the horror itself was not, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure. I will say though, this is the 3rd book by Grady Hendrix I picked up. I gave The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires 5 stars, and it's now one of my favorite books of all time. And I gave Horror Store 3 stars for sort of the same reason I'm giving this book 3 stars. But I will say, I will continue to pick up everything Grady Hendrix writes because A, I love his writing, like just the style of it and the descriptive words that he uses are fantastic. And B, he always has, well, not really in Horror Store, but in Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and My Best Friend's Exorcism, Hendrix really uses a lot of, he employs a lot of social commentary as well. Lots of themes of people, specifically women, not being taken seriously. Whether that's like a wife not being taken seriously by her husband or the community, or if it's a young girl not being taken seriously by her parents and the adults around her. It talks a lot about friendship between women. I don't know, he just has some really great commentary that he slips into his horror novels. I'm not entirely sure why, but I'm here for it. So I will definitely still pick up anything and everything that he writes because I just love it so much. Even if I did only give it 3 stars, it was still a great book. I think it's pretty good. It feels very classic horror. The 80s vibes were off the charts. Not that I was alive in the 80s, but the vibes were still off the charts. Yeah. The next book I read was Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. As you can see, I did annotate this book quite a bit. I read this, I've had it on my shelf for over a year now because everyone always talks about how great it is. But the reason I specifically picked it up this month is because it was the August pick for the Krusty Book Club hosted by Chanel. And I was like, that's the perfect excuse to finally read it. So I did read it, and I gave it 4 stars, which I know people will be upset about. Not that I really have that many people watching this channel, but I feel like everybody gives this book 5 stars because they're like, oh, it's so impactful and emotional and it made them cry. And I just like, I don't know about that. I really enjoyed it. I thought the plot was very exciting. I thought the characters were very relatable and I understood them and I cared about them. I was invested in how this book would end. I was never really bored. I understood the progression of things. I thought the pacing was excellent. I got upset when the characters' relationships didn't work out. I got excited when they did work out. I genuinely felt things for this book. But ultimately, the Tumblr culture on here, I thought that there was great, fantastic commentary on the toxicity of fandoms and fandom culture. I thought that that was really well done, super eloquently portrayed. But just Tumblr in general and that culture, I have an issue with it, and it's a personal issue. Just my association with that platform and the other related platforms is just not good. I have really bad memories associated with that, just because it was a time in my life when things were going wrong. And so I think I was trying to distance myself from some of the events that took place in this book. I love rifling through the tabs. It's so satisfying. But because of that, I think I was trying to mentally distance myself from it. Sorry, you can see the reflection of the ring light really badly. This cover is super smooth and reflective. But ultimately, I think that's why I ended up giving it 4 instead of 5 stars. It's just because, I couldn't, fully throw myself headfirst into this book because even though it was incredibly relatable, it was, too much for me to think about. It hit too close in a way that I didn't like. Also, Frances, she's a great protagonist, but I had trouble connecting with her, which I feel like is the opposite for most people, but I am the opposite of Frances. Alid spends the whole book, dreading going to university, and then when he goes there, he really hates it. Frances is convinced that she knows what she's doing, but she starts to doubt herself and is like, oh, is this actually what I want to do? Why would I go to university to study English lit if I don't actually care about English lit? And then she decides oh, well, I don't need to know what I want to do. It's okay that I'm not sure right now. It's okay to take time off to figure out what it is I want to do with my life, especially in college, or if I even want to go to college at all. And everyone is super supportive of that. Meanwhile, I am over here counting down the days until I can go to college. I'm a senior in high school and I just want to go. I want to be out of high school. I want to be out of this town. And more importantly, I want to be in that academic environment where I can push myself to learn new things and try new things with new people, people that take my craft at a more serious level. Like, I just want to go to college. So, like, none of that hesitation in this book exists in me and in my heart. And also, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to be an actress. That is my goal. That is my main goal in life. I have some backup plans to like fall back on if things don't work out. But like that is my main drive and passion in life. So I know that I'm going to go to college to get a BFA in musical theater. I know I'm going to move to New York to try to find a job there. I know I'm going to have to navigate that career field, even though it's very unstable. That's something I'm willing to do. And like I had to full on like come up with presentations and multiple conversations to convince my parents to even let me do that. Meanwhile, Frances is like, I don't know if I want to go to college. And her parents are like, that's totally fine, dear. Her mom says that. I don't know. I'm just like such the complete opposite in that regard, in like her views on university, that I had a hard time sympathizing with her in those circumstances. Like, oh my God, her interview at Cambridge, I was cringing so hard because I was like, girl, you knew going into this what kind of questions they would ask. And like, if you don't know what to say, if you don't actually care about English lit, you bullshit your answers. Like, that's what you do at interviews when you don't know the right thing to say. You make it up as you go. So I was literally sitting there like, sweetheart, honey, what are you doing right now? So overall, it was very relatable in every other sense. And I especially liked the characters and the journeys that they went through. I thought they were all very well developed, went through their own separate arcs. It was very good, but ultimately I had to give it 4 stars instead of 5 because of those 2 things. And the last book I read was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the sequel to Get a Life, Chloe Brown, also by Talia Hibbert, obviously, because it's a sequel. This book follows our protagonist, Dani, and also protagonist, Zafir. Funny story, I actually forgot that I have a math class online right now. So I had to stop filming to come join the call. So because I have limited time, I'm just going to put up the Goodreads summary of Take a Hint, Dani Brown, so you can look at it right there so I don't have to go through it. I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars because it was so sweet. It was so cute. The banter was on point. It was pretty steamy in some places. This is a bad camera angle. This is my basement. It looks a little, meh. But overall, oh my God, I loved it. It was literally so sweet. The portrayal of mental health in men was also great. That was such a weird phrasing. But like, Zafir has mental health issues and depression, and it just like, it was so well done. I don't know. I just really love this book. This might actually be like one of my new favorite romances, like in my top 3. So if that tells you anything, thank you so much for watching this video. I know the ending is a little odd. Here, what if I put my phone here? I mean, it's a bad angle, but like, I guess it sort of works. Thank you for watching. I hope to read about this many books next month in September, but September is my birthday, so I plan on doing some sort of fun video for that. I'm not entirely sure what yet, but I will do some sort of fun video, so look out for that. I also have a few other videos that I've already recorded and I'm in the process of editing that will be coming out this month. I still don't know what I'm going to do about the reading vlog I filmed at the beginning of August. I think I might just scrap it. Let me know in the comments if you like desperately want to see it, because I've already like edited half of it. I just don't know if it's really worth it at this point, but let me know what you think. I don't really have a set TBR for September, so if any of you have any suggestions or any books that you like desperately want to see me read, comment them down below. Maybe I'll do a vlog where I read your suggestions. If I get enough suggestions. That's the thing, like y'all gotta comment if you want to see content. Anyway, I read 12 books this month. Now I'm missing my math lecture. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!